Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? This is the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and this is Fearless Faith Friday. Today is different, y'all. Today is different. Today is not about starting something new. Today is not about adding more to your plate. Today is about recognizing what you already carry. Welcome to the finish line. And I need you to feel that. Not just hear it. I need you to feel it. Welcome to the finish line. Because if you made it here mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, through pressure, through responsibilities, through moments you didn't feel like it, you didn't just go through the week. You showed up in it. And today we acknowledge that. Welcome to the finish line. This is the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
This is the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Hey, thank you for joining me on this Fearless Faith Friday. Let's set the tone early. Don't let anybody make you feel small, okay? Don't let anybody make this feel small. You're completing your week is not basic. Handling your responsibility is not automatic. Staying consistent when your energy drop is not normal. That's discipline. And what happens is people normalize what takes effort. They act like it's expected, like it's nothing. But you know what it took to get here, just like I know what it took for me to get here. The mental conversations, the pushing through, the showing up when you didn't feel like it. This moment mattered. And don't let no one minimize this moment. Because I'm going to tell you, if they didn't finish what they had to do. They quit, they stopped, and they trying to minimize what you did because guess what? You came through the finish line. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's have a reality check. I like data. I like to bring that data in, the data, whatever you want to call it. I like to bring it in. Let me give you some real perspective. Study shows that 77% of people drop off within the first week of a commitment. Only about 8% stay consistent long term. Now pause on that. Pause on that right there. Why? That means the majority of people start with intentions, but don't have the discipline to sustain it. So if you're here right now, still standing at the end of the week, you're not operating at an average level. You are operating in a space most people don't stay in, and you didn't get here by accident. You got here by decision, which means what you did this week wasn't based on what you saw. And let's look at Hebrews. Let's look at Hebrews 11, verse 1. And this is what it says. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You moved based on your belief, not visibility, and that's what carried you. Welcome to the finish line. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Can I tell you something? This was never a race. No, it was not. Let me help you correct your mindset. This was never about beating anybody else. This week was not about who posted more, who moved faster, or who looked better doing it. This week was you versus you. The version of you that wanted to delay, the version of you that wanted to check out, the version of you that tried to negotiate with your responsibilities. And every time that version showed up, guess what? You made a decision, and that decision said, I'm still going. Yes. So it wasn't about keeping up with nobody else. It was you versus you. And guess what? The you that wanted to keep on going won. Welcome to the finish line. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Can I tell you something? You know what's powerful? Well, let me ask you. That's a question. Do you know what's powerful? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. The thing that you got here is the thing most people overlook. Listen to what I'm saying. The thing that got you here is the thing most people overlook. What are you talking about, Demetrius? I'm glad you asked that again. The small wins. The small wins. Not the big moments, not the highlights, not the recognition. It was the quiet decisions. One more task, one more step, one more moment of focus. Research shows that small progress is the biggest driver of motivation, which means those small wins you almost ignored, those were the few that kept you moving. Faith doesn't move off what it sees. It moves off what it knows. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about where most people fall off. By Thursday, the mental energy is low. By Friday, people are present physically, but mentally they're gone. Productivity drop, focus drops, execution slows down. People start saying, I'll finish it next week, but you didn't push it off. You didn't delay it. You stayed engaged when it got uncomfortable, and that's where separation happens. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and I thank you for joining me here on this Fearless Faith Friday. The weekend is here. You're almost done. I know some of y'all haven't clocked out yet. By the time the show over with, you will clock out. But I want you to keep on pushing till it's over, until you are done, all right? See, your mindset is what's important. I need to correct something for somebody right now. You're not inconsistent. You're not undisciplined. By Friday, your mind is not fresh. It's full of decisions you had to make, full of problems you had to solve, full of responsibilities you had to carry. And when your mind gets full, it starts looking for relief. You remember I talked about this yesterday. Your mind started looking for relief, not purpose, not progress, just relief. But instead of checking out, guess what? You stayed present. You didn't need everything to feel clear. You just needed enough belief to keep going. Man, celebrate yourself right now. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. If you got a shout out, let us know. You got a request, let us know, and we got you. But guess what you did do? You fought through the internal battle. Yes, you did. I know you probably said, man, he sounds so exciting. I am excited because I'm celebrating you with this show right here. But you fought through the internal battle. Let me go a little deeper, because the real battle this week wasn't external, it was internal. It was in your thoughts, in your energy. It was your willingness to keep going. Nobody saw the moments you had to talk to yourself back into it. Nobody saw the moments you had to push past how you felt. That wasn't weakness. That was resistance. And every time you chose to keep going, you strengthened who you were becoming. Man, I'm excited because I'm celebrating you. Welcome to the finish line. I know I'm going to say that every break. Welcome to the finish line. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Do you know there's power in consistency? There's power in it. Consistency doesn't always look impressive. It's not loud. It's not celebrated every day. It doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment, but it builds something. It builds trust with yourself. It builds identity. It builds proof. And over time, that consistency becomes your advantage. You didn't just have a good moment this week. You built a consistent pattern. Think about that. Let that stick with you. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
This is the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Rest is not a reward. It's strategy. Now, let's shift your thinking again, because this is where a lot of people break. Rest is not something you earn after exhaustion. Rest is part of how you sustain your performance. Studies show that high percentage of people experience burnout because they never pause to recover. They keep going without resetting. And eventually they crash. But high level performance understands something different. They know when to go and they know when to recover. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let me tell you something. Protect your finish line. Protect your finish line. This is important. Don't let nobody cheat you out of this moment. Don't let nobody downplay what you did this week, because the truth is, some people didn't finish. Some people stopped showing up. Some people gave in to distraction. Some people chose comfort over completion, but you didn't. You stayed with it, and that deserves to be recognized. Man. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Stop comparing your journey. Stop it right now. Stop comparing your journey. Man, this is not the moment to look around. Comparison will steal your focus. It will make your progress feel smaller than it is. And study shows it actually decreases motivation and performances. So today, we're not measuring ourselves against anybody else. We're measuring ourselves against what we completed. Stop comparing your journey. Your journey is your journey. Their journey is their journey. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. What's going on, good people? It is Friday. It's Fearless Faith Friday. You are at the finish line. You are here. Yes. But let's say this. Let's talk about the finish line process. And I want to slow it down for you. When you cross a finish line, you don't just run through it and act like nothing happened. You breathe, you take it in, you acknowledge that what you just did. Because finishing is not just about getting there, it's about recognizing what you did. You didn't see the full outcome at the beginning of the week, but you stayed committed anyway. That's faith in motion. Yes, that's the finish line process. You need to breathe, take it in, and acknowledge what you did. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Reset for the next level. You have to reset for the next level. So when you cross the finish line, you take it all in. Again, you breathe and you rest and reset. Now hear this. This is not the end. This is a checkpoint, because once you rest, once you reset, there's another level waiting for you. Another opportunity, another assignment, another week to execute at a higher level. But you don't step into that without first acknowledging this. I completed this week. I won this week. So take the time, reset for the next level. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
It is the Afternoon Praise, and it is Fearless Faith Friday. I want to have a identity check. Let's do a declaration, an identity declaration. You ready? Okay, here we go. Let's lock this in. You are not trying to be consistent. You are consistent. You are not trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You are not trying to finish. You finished. And the more you walk in that identity, the more natural it becomes. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Man, my time is up. Where did the time go? Time is flying. You know, we are about to be in April. This is the last month of the first quarter. Time has flown. It seemed like we just said Happy New Year and all the balloons fell down, the confetti, all that stuff. But man, time is moving. I'm telling you, the award moment, we have to reward ourselves, you know. So today we celebrate not just the big things, but the small wins that built this moment. The decisions nobody saw, the discipline nobody clapped for, the effort that didn't get recognized, because that's what built you this week. This was your marathon, and you didn't run it against nobody else. You ran it against the version of you that wanted to quit. And guess what? You won. That's right. You won. You didn't have to see the full picture to keep going. You just had to believe enough to stay consistent. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You don't rush past this moment. Breathe, process, reset. Because winners don't just know how to go, they know how to recover. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I thank you. Go have a great weekend. And remember, if you miss any part of this show, you can go on Wave Radio and listen to it, the whole show minus the music, and share this with somebody. Welcome to the finish line. You finished strong this week. Hey, I love you. I'm out of here. Peace.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.